Warm greetings. Welcome to online video session on operating system. Myself Jagdish, Associate Professor, Department of Computer Science and Engineering, Canara Engineering College, Bandwal. So in this video session, we'll see about the operating system structures. All you know that last video session we have seen the what are the services it is provide, the system calls, then the architecture, etc. Now in this video session we'll see the operating system structures. In this we will see the simple structure and the layer structure and microkernels. So in this first example we'll see about the simple structure. Actually, the simple structure MS-DOS, that is Microsoft Disk Operating System, is an example for a simple structure operating system. It is written to provide a most functionality in a leased space. Most functionality in the leased space. In the sense, it was first, it was it was not a user friendly. Then it was designed by the common, that is general to how it works, operating system how it works. Then it was since it was helpful for the organization as well as for the people, then they released that operating system in the open market. Then it was of course originally it was designed and implemented by the only few people who had no idea about the what it becomes that it what becomes a possible, that is popular, and it was written to provide the most functionality in the least spaces, and it was not divided into a models. So you can see it in the diagram. It was not divided into a models. First it was an application layer, then below it is a resident system program, then device drivers of that is a disk operating system, then BIOS device drivers. So it was not much layered operating system, so it was not that is user friendly to write a or to do a computing in this operating system. That is the interfaces and the levels of the functionalities are not well separately. That is the interfaces and the level of functionality is not well separated in this Microsoft Disk Operating System, and application programs are able to access the basic input-output routines to write it directly to the display or to the disk drivers. And another example of this simple structure, you can take it as a original Unix operating system. Original Unix operating system was a simple structure. Unix is another system that initially was limited by the hardware functionalities. It was limited hardware functionalities. So directly we can that is user has to access the any of the functions, that is application. He has to write it through a command to access any of the file. It consisting of two separate parts, that is one is kernel and the system programs. The kernel is further you're going to study in the coming videos, so we'll see in details in the next coming slides. Layered approach. The operating system in the layered approach is divided into number of layers, or it may be called as a levels also. Each layer is built on top of the lower layer. The bottom layer, that is layer 0, is the hardware. The highest, that is layer n, is the user interfaces. Operating system is divided into number of layers, or may call as levels, each built on top of a lower layer. The bottom layer, that is layer 0, is the hardware. The highest layer, that is layer n, is the user interfaces. With modularity, layers are selected such that each user's functions may be called as an operation also, and services of only lower layers. You can see the diagram here. The user above, the below that user, it is a shell, commands, compiler, interpreter, or system libraries, etc. will be below the user level, and below that you have a system call to the kernel, that is through the interface, there is signal, terminal, handling, character, input output system, file system, CPU scheduling. This is entire thing is a kernel, and below that it is a terminal control, there is terminal control, device control, and memory control for the physical memory. So you have a number of layers in this layer approach, where a user can access or perform the operation, computing operation, very easily without any extra effort has to be put, because the operating system, what the layered approach operating system is being designed, will be able to communicate with the help of the hardware, that is hardware in the sense to perform a computation to the user, that the hardware will be supported by the particular layered operating system itself. So whereas in the simple structure, the hardware, even if you install the hardware, the disk operating system won't support by this particular hardware, so computation usually it will be very difficult compared to the layered approach, compared to the simple structure and layer approach. So in the layer approach, you can see here also the hardware is below that, there is of course user interface is below that, there will be number of layer to communicate with the hardware. So there is this is a layer approach operating system diagram. So microkernel system structure, it is moves as a much from kernel into the user space. That is, communication take places between user modules using message passing. Benefits of the microkernel system structure is easier to extend a kernel, easier to port the operating system to new architecture, more reliable and more secure than the layer approach operating system. Even you can give a lock, a kernel, so that no one can access your data. Before you want to, any of the user has to access your data, first he has to give a username or password to the kernel, then only the system gets open. So this is what day by day it's getting a more secure for the kernel system structure. So this is one of the diagram of the kernel, there is Mac operating system X structure. You can see the kernel environment, there is a Mac and there is Berkeley system the disk, Berkeley system disk, and between there will be number of layer also, and it can directly communicate between the common services that is provided by the operating system. And see, you can see that Mac also can communicate with the application, as well as BST, and can also communicate with the application environment in the there is what are the services provided by the operating system. Modules, the most modern operating system implemented is kernel modules. In that there is uses a object oriented approach. Each core component is separated, each talks to the other over a known interfaces, each one is loaded as needed within the kernel. So most operating systems implemented kernel modules. In that we have a various there is advantages, uses a operating system approaches, uses a core component in separate, talks to each other over interfaces, and loadable as needed. Overall similar to the layer but more flexible in the compared to the layer structure. Module system is more flexible compared to the layer structure. You can see the one example they are given. Course there is a Solaris kernel. In that each one has been having separated kernel. There is a separate classes or drives or module system calls. Each one of the sub modules can be communicated with the kernel. So compared to the layer structure, this is modular approach is more convenient, and it is more easy to computation, where each one of them modules will be able to communicate directly to the kernel. So there is no interfaces or intermediated layer is there in between kernel as well as other modules. Virtual machine. A virtual machine takes a layered approach to its logical conclusion. It treats hardware and operating system kernel as though they were all hardwares. A virtual machine provides an interface identical to the underlying bare hardware. The operating system host creates the illusion that a process has its own processor and virtual memory. Each guest is provided with a virtual copy of underlying computer. Virtual machine takes a layered approach to its logical conclusion. It treats hardware and the operating system kernel as though they were all hardware. So, very good example. You can take it on virtual machine. Think that you have a around 1 terabytes of memory and 16 GB of RAM, and you have a one monitor, whereas you will be able to for computation purpose you require only 2 GB of RAM as well as of 50 GB hard disk. So another user wants to make use of the resources what it is with you. He wants to make use of that resources. For that purpose, what he will do, he will create you can share the resources, whatever the resources you have, to them, though it is your resources. So for him it looks that the resources is of its own. How it is possible? It is possible by the virtual machine. So whenever not in the there is a personal computer, even in the organization, like the resources allocators, only there will be resources allocators for the clients. For them they require a large number of resources, but to computation purpose they don't have that much of resources. So they take a rent of the resources by the other person who have a lot of resources. Instead of purchasing each and every resources for the computation, the cost will be a more. So for that purpose he will take a shared resources. How it will be? It will be looks like his own resource, his own system. For example, you can consider he requires around 200 GB hard disk and of 10 GB of RAM. So instead of purchasing it in the market, he can have a virtually, you can have that in his system by the distributors. So this is how it will be helpful for the distributors as well as for the client also. So it looks like that he has its own system of the following resources. So there is no need of purchasing. After computation purpose is over, he can return back the resources automatically, but the data won't get erased. It will be get locked in his system, or it may be locked in the cloud system also. So that is one example of using a virtual machine. So virtual machine history and benefits. What are the benefits? First, it was appeared in the 1972. Fundamentally, multiple execution environment, that is different operating system can share the same hardware. For example, the operating system, one client may use a Unix, another client may use a Windows, another client may use a that is a Windows 10, etc. So there will be multiple operating system where it can you make use of the resources, but only one type of resources. So whatever the resources, that is hardware or maybe the software, there is software in the sense memory or maybe the RAM, they can make use of the resources, that is hardware resources, but they can have a different operating system. Protect from each other. So one user, if it is share the resources, the same another person may share the same resources a part of that. So there will be a protection between each other. There will be don't know what the user A as well as user B is communicate are performing the operation to each other own understanding, or they cannot able to see the what work they are doing. Some sharing of files can be permitted and controlled. So communicated with each other physical system via networking, useful for development and testing. Consolidation of many lower resources use systems into few busier system. Open virtual machine format, standard format of virtual machines allows the virtual machine to run within a many different virtual machine host platforms. So you can consider there will be a large application has to be developed where they have to use a different operating system. So at that point of time, or different application also at that point of time, they can make use of this virtual machine. So where the resources can be shared among all the clients, and or if they want to be share the file to the subordinate subordinate worker, they can communicate through this virtual machine itself. They can share the file, they can share the content also, they can share the or give the permission to access their desktop, etc. All those things operations are able to perform easily in this virtual machine. Yeah, you can see here virtual machine. So consider there is a hardware, kernel and process. Okay, so here of consider there is of 1 terabyte of memory, as well as 16 GB of hard disk, or maybe 100 GB of hard disk, etc. And hardware, that is supporting hardware, all are high end hardware. So instead of the single user making use of this entire system, where they make use of only a 10% of this entire system, so remaining 90% there will be waste of resources. Or you can consider your own example itself. You people are going to purchase your desktop or maybe a laptop of 1 terabyte of 16 GB of hard disk, as well as high-end monitor, as well as graphics card, as well as GPU, graphical user interface, there is a process controller, etc. Where there is in use the whatever they make use of, or application what you go through in the college, there is no need of that much of resources, where there will be lot of resources will be wasted. Instead of that, you can go for the smaller system or a smaller specification, where it will be helpful for your education. So the resources what it is being used in this diagram, you can see this much of memory or hard disk or RAM, etc. they can make use of by the other processors. See here, this entire process, there is entire diagram is been divided how it looks. For each user, there is virtual machine 1, virtual machine 2, virtual machine 3. For each user will be sharing the same hardware. Above that hardware there will be virtual machine implementation will be done. For that, each user will be given a separate there is a process, separate kernel, separate 3 users, but it looks separate for the users, but actually it will be shared resources to the end users. So this is actually virtual machine, how it looks and how it will be helpful for the client as well as for the users also. There is not much investment is required by the company also, so there is no wastage of resources will be happen. So virtual machine architecture, in this you can see that application, for each application you can see that there will be virtual CPU, virtual memory, virtual devices. For each operating system there will be a guest operating system depending upon the, see here, you can see here free BSD, Windows NT, Windows XP, below that there will be a virtual layer, because to virtual layer is required because to share all the resources CPU, memory and devices to all the 3 application, they can they require a virtual layer. As well as there will be one more layer application, they easily that directly communicate with the actual system. So the hardware in the sense like CPU, memory, input output devices is only one hardware. It will since it has been in the initialized virtual layer, so it has been distributed among 3 users. So 3 users can install separate operating systems for 3 different users, and they can make use of the virtual CPU, memory, virtual CPU, memory as well as devices separately. So this is what application, or this is what the advantages of using a virtual machine. So Java consisting of its programming language specification and its application programming interfaces API and virtual machine specification. Even Java is also virtual machine specification. So Java virtual machine, there is a class file as well as is installed a loader and interpreter, Java interpreter, and host, it can be a Windows, Linux, anything. So wherever you install a Java, the Java virtual machine will be in the install. Even that is, if you just plug the Java program, and you can run it in on any of the system where Java is installed, because each Java, whenever you install Java, there will be virtual machine will be automatically installed. So this is one of the advantages of using Java in the system. Operating system generalization. Operating systems are designed to run on any of the classes of the machine. The system must be configured for each specific computer site. System generation program obtains information concerning the specific configuration of the hardware system. Booting, starting a computer by loading the kernel. Bootstrap program is a code stored in ROM, that is read only memory. It's a code stored in ROM that is able to locate in the kernel, load it into a memory and start its execution. Bootstrap program. System boot, an operating system must be made available to the hardware so that hardware can start it. So small piece of code, that is nothing but a bootstrapped loader, locates the kernel, loads it in memory and starts it. So whenever you press the CPU button, that is it ignite the bootstrap loader to the kernel to load its program. So bootstrap loader is continuously running in the, that is it get activated by the BIOS, that is what to say CMOS battery. So with the help of CMOS battery, it keeps on even the system gets keep on running is that is what to say time, location, that is time as well as date, it keeps on getting working. If the CMOS battery is not proper or if it be dead, then you each and every time you have to that what to say you have to update your date and time. Sometimes two steps processor where boot block at fixed location loads the bootstrap loader. When power initialized on the system, execution starts at a fixed memory location. So by this I will end the second chapter of the first module, that is system structure. And so in the third module, in the third chapter, we'll go for the process management. That is the third chapter of the first module. Is a very interesting will be there. What are the what is the definition of the process control block, and process states, and process scheduling. Very interesting, and most of the questions will be asked in this chapter also. Scheduling queues, and there will be some problem also. We'll see it in the next class also. Okay, by this I will signing out in this video session. If you have doubt, you can ask me in the online video session class. Thank you students. Bye.